Good afternoon, folks. How are we doing today? I hope we're well. Fortunately, this one does not begin with me saying, "Oh, good grief, it's far too hot." The temperature has come down a bit, and that's something of a relief. Um, so yes, that's definitely a positive going into this week, which is marvelous, marvelous, marvelous. Let's run through housekeeping stuff nice and quickly because I seem to be spending an awful lot of time doing that. Um, So, what were we talking about last week? Let's start with short thoughts stuff. Let's get that stuff out of the way. For those who don't know, I have a bite-sized interview show called Short Thoughts. Each episode is 13 to 15 minutes long, where I interview people from the gaming industry, mostly tabletop RPG creators, but not always wider gaming industry as well. So we have a new episode this week. So the episode this week, specifically Friday at 1 p.m. BST, is my interview with Red Wormling, who people will know from the internet as the 7-year-old DM. I believe he started as the 4-year-old DM, but time flies. So that's my interview with, well, specifically it's my interview with his dad, who has asked his son all of the questions in advance. So he reads out his answers, we talk a little bit about them, and generally it's a fun and charming interview. Slightly different than some of the ones we've had in the past. So if that appeals, do check that out. The link I've stuck in the chat is to the podcast playlist. So if you want to watch that, get notified on new episodes, but also with previous episodes, that's all there for you. And while I'm there, I will say, please take a look at last episode, my episode with Iza, aka Evil Clever Dog. That episode has sadly been rather unloved. I think people are generally quite busy, which is completely understandable, but numbers are surprisingly low on that episode, considering certainly when I was editing it, it's one of my favourites. I think it is both funny and poignant. So if you've not had a chance to watch or listen to that, do that because yeah, I think that's a really good episode, that one. So it's a shame for it not to get the love I think it deserves. So have a look at that. Also, all episodes of Short Thoughts are available in podcast form as well. So, I mean, basically from any podcast provider you might choose to use. So it's on Apple Podcasts, it's on Amazon, it's on Spotify, and it's on loads of ones I've not even heard of. But the Podbeans integration meant it was very easy for me to do them. So there we go. So if that is of interest, please do that. Specifically, let's get an actual link for you. Why do I not have this prepared? Because I'm disorganized this morning, essentially. So let's get you a link to that. So if you go to the Short Thoughts part of my website, there are embedded copies of all the YouTube versions and also links to all the places you can get that as a podcast. So please do that. The more people who watch it, the more people who share it, essentially the more incentive there is for me to do more of these. It does take quite a bit of my time and I'm very much enjoying it, but I will probably take stock at some point soon. We've done This is the 8th episode that's coming out. I'm thinking I'll probably get to like 12, 13-ish, like a season's worth, as is the definition of a season now, and then I'll probably take stock on whether I keep doing these every fortnight, and see where we're at. So please, if you're enjoying them, please share them, please encourage people to subscribe, etc., etc. Anything else from housekeeping stuff? I'll probably talk about this in. Well, we'll see if we keep watching it. I imagine we will. So last week I was talking a bit about Cobra Kai, which was what we were watching at the time. So we were doing a rewatch up until the 5 episodes they've released the latest season, which we watched. They were enjoyable, but 5 is not a lot, especially for a show which is where the episodes are relatively short. But we enjoyed that, so we're looking for something else to watch. And we've decided to move on to Succession, which obviously there was a lot of hype about that over the last 5-ish years, but we never got around to watching it. Mostly because we didn't have Sky, but now we've got Now TV, we have that available to us, and we've watched the first 2 episodes and enjoying it so far. Yeah, I I'm looking forward to seeing where this goes. Yeah, good grief, there are some unlikable characters in that, but I think they're designed to be unlikable. But yes, very much enjoying that so far, and I'll probably do a bit of an update on that soon. I know it's not terribly geeky Succession, but cult TV I think comes under a category of geeky, if not the necessarily nerdy aspect of geeky. But there we go. Last bit of housekeeping: birthday targets. Sorry to be rattling on about this one. It is my birthday next Wednesday. And as part of that, I mean, a lot of people get their birthday, especially people who are on social media, and say, right, can you retweet this? Can you retweet that? I mean, essentially, my goals are really, really straightforward on this one, expanding my audience on this one. So, firstly, I want to try and get to 100 followers on Twitch. We are currently on 88, so that's okay, but it's a lot to do in a week. So, if you're enjoying this, please share with other people. It would be very, very much appreciated. So yes, we're currently on 88 out of 100 followers. It'd be really good to hit that milestone by Wednesday. Also, YouTube subscribers. So similarly, I want to try and get to 100 subscribers on YouTube. We're a little bit closer there. We're on 91 of 100. So, not too far to go, but we shall see. We shall see. Ooh, I see some people are sneaking into the chat there. Hello, K of double K. I don't know if this is your pre-lurk. That would be awesome if it is. And hello, Jazute, a new face here. So thank you very much for joining me. I'll do a brief intro here. So if you are joining me for the first time, hi, I'm variety streamer. Is that the technical topic, what we call ourselves? My name's DT Bradshaw. I am mostly a tabletop RPG writer. I do occasional gaming streams as well, but generally I talk a lot about what's going on in the tabletop RPG and wider gaming space, and other kind of geeky and nerdy topics. We often do playthroughs of board games on Wednesdays, and like I said, every so often I do gaming streams as well, but I'm trying to get back into a routine of that one, because my evenings have been rather busy of late. So thank you very much for joining me. Where was I? Yes, so Twitch up to 100, YouTube up to 100, and the third one, we'll see if this one happens, is getting my Ko-Fi subscribers up to 5. Currently on 3 right now, but yeah, cost of living, credit crunch, all that kind of stuff. I totally understand if people don't have free cash to throw around. Sorry, I'm really struggling to speak today. I don't know why. I've got a bit of a cold. I'm going to blame that. Yeah, not sure where that's come from, but there we go. So apologies if I end up sort of talking absolute rubbish during this. I will try my best. Hello, Radiant Leave. Lovely to see you, as always, lurking a little as I eat lunch. Absolutely fine. And I hope you enjoy your lunch, whatever it might be. Mine was leftover Chinese takeaway from last night, which is delicious. I think a lot of takeaways get better the next day. Certainly true of things like curry and Chinese and stuff like that, and cold pizza. Cold pizza is magnificent. So I hope you're enjoying your lunch, whatever it might be. On the note of streams and the like, I want to do some more gaming streams. It has been a while, mostly because my evenings have been taken up recently with trying to get my daughter to sleep. She is just, because it's the summer holidays, the routine has gone. So she's had a few late nights and it's getting trickier to get her down to bed. I think that will change once we come back after summer in September and she gets into the routine of school. Yeah, that's taken a lot of time in the evenings. And also I've been editing, editing short thoughts, especially when I'm having to start later because of my daughter. That's taking a lot of my time in my evenings, but I would like to do more gaming streams. I do enjoy them, and it's just finding the time to do them. But so one of the things I want to do with that is I got halfway through something. It was my last gaming stream, going back a while, and it is a while when you look at it. I got halfway through a retro gaming stream of Beyond Oasis, aka Story of Thor, and I would like to finish that. It may not be the first thing I do, but I dislike leaving things half finished. So I think we will probably finish that at some point. But the other thing I'd like to do is I would like to play around with maybe some scarier streams on this one. And I'm going to regret this. I'm absolutely going to regret this. We'll see what we want to do with it. So I'm not generally a horror gamer. I'm really not. I did enjoy Alien Isolation, but yeah, that really that messes with your head, that one. And I played Resident Evil. I was going to say Bioshock. That's not them, but Biohazard. That was fun, but yeah, that was bloody terrifying. So I do have Resident Evil Village. I might play it at some point, but we'll see if I do that one on stream. I think the two most likely candidates I'm going to do for this is there is DLC for Alien Isolation, which I haven't played. Specifically, there is DLC which actually has the returning cast of the first Alien film. So I'm very tempted to play that. Also, in I think there are some jump scares in it, but it's not fully horror, is The Last of Us, which it was one of the first things I bought when I got my PlayStation 5, and I have not yet got around to starting it, mostly because I've been playing Cyberpunk 2077, which is a heck of a lot of fun, but it's very long. So I think actually streaming Last of Us, I think, is probably an excuse to juggle between games, because I generally dislike juggling between games, because I'll probably end up abandoning one of them. However, if I know I'm playing one of them on stream and one of them off stream, it kind of gives me a reason to juggle between the two. I have sorted out the chicanery. I will do the ridiculous thing, which is having my my heart rate on stream as I play them. So I've downloaded, it seemed to be fairly well reviewed, and I've done a brief test of it, and it seems to work. I've downloaded Hyperate app, which nicely integrates. So I will have I'm just working on the aesthetics of it, to be honest. I will have a little heart rate monitor as I am playing, whatever it might be. I'm thinking it will be The Last of Us, unless I go for the Alien Isolation DLC, which does seem topical. I'll be honest, the Alien Isolation DLC, because of Alien Romulus. However, I have not seen Alien Romulus yet. And in all honesty, I'm not sure I'll manage to see it in the cinema. So if I stream Alien Isolation, I think there's a greater chance I'm going to get inadvertently spoiled on it. Not from the game itself, but in the event that people pop in, because I imagine there are a lot of people streaming Alien Isolation, in the event I have new watchers dropping into that stream, there is a greater chance I might get that spoiled. Also, I don't have Alien Isolation on my PlayStation. I have it on my Xbox, which I don't know what the difference in graphics will be. I don't know how much like the PlayStation 5 enhances previous generation games, so we'll see. I mean, maybe I have to switch back to my Xbox if I do decide to play that, because I don't particularly fancy rebuying Alien Isolation just for doing that stream. But we'll see. But I would like to do that soon. I think it would be a lot of fun. And if you would like to see me suffer a little bit, yeah, that could be some fun. So I won't promise when we will do it, but I was hoping to do it this weekend. I genuinely was, and then just as I said, 4-year-old was having absolutely none of it with our time in the evening. So we shall see. So I'm not going to commit to a date for that, but keep an eye out. I am hoping it'll be sometime this week. I get to do a surprise gaming stream in the evenings, which will hopefully be a bit of fun for me, and a bit of fun for you as well. There we go. Right. So moving on from streaming stuff, kind of the main thing I wanted to talk about today, is something I've been thinking about for a little while now. So for those who don't know, I'd say the main flagship product that I created for tabletop RPGs is something called Little But Fierce. So Little But Fierce is a rewrite of Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition. 5th edition? Come on, Dave, learn to speak. It is a rewrite of Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition, so that it is accessible by kids as young as 6. So essentially, I've taken the Creative Commons version of D&D 5th edition, and I've done a complete rewrite of it. So I've taken a lot of the mechanics of it, which technically aren't copyrighted, but that's the whole thing. And then I have streamlined the rules, so cut out unnecessarily complicated bits. I have simplified the language. I have done some stuff with tone of it. Not a huge amount, but I've removed what I would consider to be kind of antiquated and unnecessarily harmful tropes. I've also kind of removed references to death from it, to make it, less scary for younger kids. And I'm going to be doing a bit of work on it soon to kind of change a little bit of the emphasis relating to fighting soon. But that's one of the main things I wrote for. So I've released the starter edition for that. I've released a few add-ons for that. I am wrapping up, have been wrapping up for a little while now, another add-on for it, which is of a mythological theme. But one of the things that people do ask me for, and it is very flattering that they ask for it, is pre-written adventures. Because obviously, if you're going to pick up a game and play it with your kids, it is a lot easier if there are some one-shots available for you. So I've written one already. So the Blunderlings expansion contains a one-shot of a sort of I consider it very much a dungeon keepery sort of feel, but it's got a similar sort of vibe to the Minions from the Despicable Me and Minions franchises. Some lackeys of a baddie are sent to do a quest, and hijinks and shenanigans ensue. And that was good. I enjoyed that. That was originally going to be run as a playtesting one-shot, and that just didn't happen due to, essentially, when there was the general strike for Gaza, that kind of threw a spanner in the works with being able to run that one. But I wrote it for that, but I put it in the add-on, so you got that to play with. And that was great because that gave me an opportunity to figure out how I set out a one-shot or any kind of adventure for Little But Fierce. What sort of information do you give? How much the kind of the rails that are in it? How obvious are they? How do you provide information? How do you format stuff? So that was really good for that. And I do have plans that in a future add-on, I've probably talked about this before, the future add-on that's going to add the Knight, which is a version of the Paladin. There's not going to be a huge amount of other content in that one, but it is going to have essentially the bulk of that book will be a mini campaign based on Arthurian legend, which I'm very much looking forward to writing, and it'd be good to have an idea of how you write a Little But Fierce adventure in order to do that. But one of the things people ask for is one-shots. What's a good level one-shot or a series of one-shots they can play? And I've been thinking about this for a little while, and I had a thought for a little while that I wanted to do something along the lines of something maybe based on traditional fairy tales, kind of Billy Goat's Gruff and stuff like that. Something that is familiar kind of fairy tale concepts with maybe some little twists in them and the like, because I thought those would be nice and accessible. And I've been batting that idea around for a little while. I think, well, what could it be if I had some like a little book of one shots, so you can just pull something out and play it without it being part of a huge campaign, without it requiring a lot of world building. You just want it to be really easy, pick up and go, especially if you are playing with much younger kids. You want something where you can really just leap into it. It's familiar, it's fun. They can get an experience of playing the game. And, after you've done a few of those, maybe you then think about, world building and building your own little world and doing a little mini campaign and stuff like that. But you do really want something kind of bite-sized and snappy. And this links to an idea that Dr. Emily Friedman tweeted about a little while back, which was a really interesting thought, and this one has been rattling around in my brain for a long time as well, which is because Emily Friedman, if you don't follow her, absolutely wonderful person to follow on all social media. She is an associate professor of English literature, but she also teaches a class studying narrative role-playing games. And actually, she's been doing an awful lot of study about actual plays. So we're talking recorded or live games, people playing role-playing games, Critical Role and the like, and where it's gone in various directions, and the good, the bad, the ugly, and all of that, because that's very much an evolving scene. And she tweeted once about actual plays for kids, and the question, kind of the gauntlet that was thrown down on this one was, could you make an actual play for kids that was the same length or of a similar length to an episode of Bluey? Now, Bluey episodes are like about 7 minutes long. So that is quite a challenge. I think you couldn't do it live. And the more I think about it, I think actual plays, unless it's essentially your home game, but you just happen to be streaming it, I really don't think there's not a huge amount of reason to do actual play live on the internet. If you're doing it at a physical venue, that's a different matter entirely. But you're just putting yourself through unnecessary stress doing it live, unless there's an audience interactivity element, in which case it is kind of required. But if you were doing pre-recorded actual plays, you could edit stuff down. Now, editing it down to be 7 minutes, I think, would be tough. I think you'd want to take something kind of bite-sized, or something you can chop up into bite-sized chunks. Hey, Hatchling DM, how are we doing? Appropriately eating lunch while tuning in. Marvellous, that is exactly the way it should be done. I've never actually eaten lunch while streaming these, because I think you don't particularly want to see me just kind of munching on something while talking about it. I think that would be kind of miserable, but I hope you're having a great day. So we're just talking about actual plays for kids and writing one-shots for all ages. And I was talking about it, could you make something that's the length of an episode of Bluey? And this was a challenge that I was willing to try and take up when I was doing the doing that Blunderlings one-shot that didn't actually happen. My intention with that was I was going to do it either live or pre-recorded, and then when I put out a VOD, like a version, there would be two versions of it. There would be an edited version just to tighten up little bits and pieces, which would be the full thing. But then also that I would release a second edit of it that was in more bite-sized chunks for kids, was going to be the idea. And because that adventure was relatively methodical, it had a kind of preamble, and it was like 3 different stages of a dungeon, and then a kind of climax, and then an epilogue. I thought it would actually break up into, events, into little chunks that you could probably edit down. Whether you could edit them down to 7 minutes or not, I think that might be tough. But that was my plan. It never actually happened because I didn't get a chance to run that one, but it's been going around my head for a little while now. Have you listened to the Reslayer's Take podcast? I haven't. It is on my list of things I really do need to listen to. I have heard good things, and it is kind of shameful that I have not picked that up yet, because it's absolutely my jam. So I will make a note to myself that I do need to listen to that at some point, because undoubtedly I imagine we will end up probably talking about that and other things at Tabletop Scotland, for example. And when we get to our panel at Dragonmeet, which I need to actually finalise everything for. But yes, I absolutely do need to listen to that. That would be really, really good. So this is something. There's 2 different things on the same topic that have been going round my head for a little while now. One, how could I make one-shots? How could I write maybe a book of one-shot adventures that you could just pick up and go with for a little bit of fierce? And also this challenge thrown down by Emily Friedman of, could you do actual plays that were sort of Bluey length? And then I came to a realization over the weekend. Pause for dramatic effect. So my daughter really loves Spidey and His Amazing Friends. And I think it's brilliant. I really do. I will do a brief overview of what Spidey and His Amazing Friends is, but this is what triggered this thought for me. So Spidey and His Amazing Friends is the Marvel cartoon. I say cartoon. It's CG, but that still makes it a cartoon, right? So the format of Spidey and His Amazing Friends is the main characters are Peter Parker, so Spider-Man. You've also got Ghost Spider, who is Gwen Stacy, kind of the Gwen Stacy that you see in Into the Spider-Verse, the Spider-Gwen, or as she's been kind of renamed Ghost Spider. You also have Miles Morales, who, to make it easier for kids, is given the superhero name Spin. I'm not quite sure why he's called Spin, but he is, because you can't clearly have 2 characters called Spider-Man in a kids show. It would be very, very confusing. So it's the 3 of them, and then a roster of about kind of half a dozen villains. I think the first season there's only 3 villains in it. There's Doc Ock, Green Goblin, and Rhino. And for the record, I really love the redesign of Doc Ock. The redesign of Doc Ock for Spidey and His Amazing Friends is it's not the same redesign that you see into the Spider-Verse, but it is a female version of the character. But the character design is wonderful. If you've not had a chance, Google that, because it's an amazing character design. It really is. So you've got those three villains, and over the series, they've done 3 series now, and I think they're up to a roster of about 9 villains and the like around that. But a small cohort of recurring villains. You have familiar allies. So you've got each of the characters' parents, or in the case of Peter, you've got Aunt May, and there are some other recurring allies as well. The most common one, there is a local museum owner who you see an awful lot. Those are the main people you see, that are at least named characters. And each episode kind of starts in situ with what would be considered the B plot. So you've got the heroes are getting ready for a birthday party, or they've gone out for ice cream, or they're at a fun fair, or something like that. So it starts in situ in that B plot. Then the villain arrives, some sort of shenanigans happens, so the villain kidnaps someone, or Doc Ock uses their new gadget, whatever it is. That sort of ties in a bit to the B plot. They resolve the A plot, which is generally relatively straightforward. There aren't a huge number of twists and turns because the episodes are about... How long is an episode of Spidey and His Amazing Friends? They have 2 back-to-back. Spidey and His Amazing Friends. I should have checked this in advance. Episode length. They are pretty short. They are... Each episode is 11 minutes long, and they do 2 back-to-back in one episode. So if you watch on Disney Plus, it's 2 episodes of 22 minutes in total, but each one's 11 minutes long. So like I said, there aren't twists and turns, really. They solve the A plot, which kind of links into the B plot as well, and they wrap the 2 up at the end. And that's the format. And this format I've seen quite a bit in my watching of children's television with my daughter. Interestingly, it's not quite the format of Paw Patrol. Paw Patrol has way more characters, but it is similar. But if you look at things like PJ Masks, if you look at Star Wars Young Jedi Adventures, which is also Disney, that one. So I think they've actively chosen to kind of follow the format of Spidey and His Amazing Friends with that one. It's kind of the same thing. So, I mean, PJ Masks is almost directly, and I would say, without trying to say anything that lawyers would be know about, I think Spidey's Amazing Friends is very much modelled on the format of PJ Masks. 3 main characters, one of whom's female, one of whom is not Caucasian, that very much follow the format of Spidey and His Amazing Friends or other similar shows. So what would that look like? That would look like, obviously the heroes you've no control over. The heroes are the characters that the players create. So you've got them. You would need to set it in a town that is not terribly complicated, I think, because obviously Spidey and His Amazing Friends and other shows are set in a version of the real world. So it's set in New York. Now, you don't need to know much about the culture of New York, but it is a city, and kids know what a city kind of looks like. That's not exactly terribly complicated. But for a fantasy thing, you would need to set it in a town that is very much, oh, this is just a fantasy village, a fantasy town. It's not terribly weird. There's not a weird culture you need to know about. It's got to be very, very accessible and generic. So you could put it basically anywhere. But I think you'd want to have some... The only backstory I think you'd want for it is you'd want some landmarks nearby that are where danger could be. I think you would want, like, forest nearby and some mountains on the other side, and maybe not a desert, but maybe it could be on the coast or something like that. So there are directions where villains and things could come from. You know, it could be you've got to go into the forest, or something's come out of the forest, or there's something in the mountains, or pirates arrive from the shore. You want some nice places where danger could come from, but the town itself is secure and safe and a kind of bastion of niceness. So I think you'd want that in terms of a setting. You'd want to establish familiar allies. And I'd want to think about what kind of boxes these tick. But you'd want them, I think, to be mentor-type figures. I mean, I think you could have some who are slightly more kind of clumsy, but I think generally they are people that the heroes trust and for right reasons. So you'd maybe have the mayor, you'd maybe have the leader of the guards or something like that. I think a teacher type character would be quite good. You know, if you think about kind of JRPGs, inevitably they start in a school for the most part, and you've got your Professor Oak type character. So I think something like that, a wizened teacher type character. I mean, clearly you would have their parents as well, but you couldn't write that into a one-shot book because it would be based on the characters, unless they were all kind of adopted. But I don't think you'd want to go down that kind of route. But I think you'd want these mentor figures who are recurring allies that you could come back to again and again. I think that would be nice. And then you think about villains. You would want a small roster of recurring villains that you could have. Now, you know, as is one of the very important things that I repeatedly talk about in Little But Fierce and try and embed into Little But Fierce, you want to make sure that these recurring villains are not that we don't turn, like, for example, we don't have orcs being villains. You could have an orc who's a villain, but I would much rather you have an orc being one of the mentor characters. I'd rather have like the head guard or the mayor being an orc. I would find that more interesting. But I think you would want recurring villains, probably each of them of a different kin. I think you'd want them to fit some sort of archetype of some sort. So I think one of them being a pirate, I think would be interesting. I think, and you definitely want them to be very, very different from each other. And I think maybe something that could hint about the fact that each of them could have a different voice. I wouldn't want to stress too much in the writing what their voices could be, but I think it's fun when you can have nice, easily replicable and recognizable voices for your villains. So if you did have someone who was like, let's say like an ogre or a troll or something like that, it's very easy for the storyteller to have, well, I'm the big deep kind of voice. And then when they use that voice later on for a recurring villain, the players recognize, oh, it's, Granthor the troll or something like that. Equally, if you've got, I don't know, like a goblin pirate or a rat folk pirate who's got a really kind of whiny, kind of up and nasally kind of voice. Again, if you can make them easily push into that direction, it makes a nice recognizable voice. And then if you did have multiple villains in the same one shot, it makes it very easy on the storytellers and the players to be able to tell the difference between those recurring villains. So I probably want, it depends how big the book would be, but maximum 6, I think, but you could start with something like 3. And then what would it look like? Well, I think you would kind of have, let's say you had, let's start small. Let's say you had 3 recurring villains. I think you'd want 3 level 1 one-shots, which are very much the introduce this villain story. They come in, they do their absolutely characteristic thing, whatever that might be. Let's say that you've got that rat folk pirate with the Weasley kind of voice. And let's say he wants gold, say. It's gonna be that he's arrived in town and he's stolen some sort of, gold, what can it be? Something, maybe not a sword or something like that. Maybe it's a trophy. Maybe that's it. Maybe that's adventure. It's the race day in the town and there's a golden trophy and the rat folk pirate arrives and steals the trophy. It's something that kind of simple. And there you go. There's B plot and A plot together. B plot is it's race day. A plot is rat pirate steals the trophy. There we go. And in doing so, you can kind of wrap up the two because the race will get won just as your heroes bring back the trophy and can, everything wraps up nicely. So you'd want 3 level 1 one-shots in there that, introduce those villains in a very, doing very much their thing. Maybe you want 2 of each, so one that introduced them and one that has them returned. I then think you could have some fun with maybe 3 level 2 adventures, where you have team ups with villains. So you have two villains in one teaming up, and then you get that fun of the villains playing off each other. And then you can do that sort of thing. You can then maybe have some level 3 ones where the return of the rat pirate, you know. And I don't think I'd go too far in this book. I don't think I would go much further than like level 3, maybe level 3, level 4, something like that. But I really would want them to be quite contained. I don't think I would have two-parters unless you wanted a finale. I think that's maybe the way you would do it. I think you'd maybe have level 1, 3 level 1 quests, which are introduce the villains. You then have 3 level 2 quests, which are team ups with the villains. 3 level 3 quests, which are the big return of each of the villains, where maybe they've got some minions or something like that. And then a level 4 quest, which would be a little bit longer, kind of like a two-parter, which is maybe all 3 villains try to do something. They kidnap the mayor, something like that. Something where the stakes are a little bit higher, and you've built up something there. And the nice thing about that kind of format is, I think you could dip in and out. You could use them as one-shots. Yeah, we're just going to do this one shot. But equally, if you want to kind of string them together into an arc, you can. You can say, well, we're going to do the 3 level 1s and the level 2s and level 3s, and we'll finish the level 4. And I think that could be quite fun. I mean, you could increase the roster of villains a little bit, but it'd be very easy to repeat that kind of format in another book. You could introduce more villains. You could bring back the existing villains. I think something like that might work. And I think from a writing perspective, the difficult thing, certainly for me, would be to keep it simple. You don't need twists and turns. It doesn't have to go bananas. You just need to make sure that you're setting up the scenario of this particular one. You give them some opportunity. You don't want it entirely on rails, but you want to give them some clear choices of ways they could approach this. But it's kind of you kind of want to have a branching thing. So you start from your scenario, you then maybe have 2 or 3 choices that loop around and eventually will end up at them encountering the villain and in their lair or whatever it might be. So there are some rails there. It's not a complete sandbox, but you're not completely railroading them in terms of them not having any choice. And it's very much about you've got to solve the scenario, you've got to solve whatever the danger, the problem is for that one, and then come back to save the village. And you cement those relationships with those familiar allies. It doesn't have to be a ridiculously big town. You don't have to design everything. It would just be these are the core people they will encounter along the way. And maybe some bit of fun about what's there. I think you probably have a thing maybe about it of maybe halfway through it or at the end of it, maybe the mayor can give them like a castle, something like that, or a hideout or something fun like that, where they can have they can customize it a little bit in terms of them having a familiar place that they go back to after each one, like the PJ Masks Tower in PJ Masks, like the web quarters in Spidey and His Amazing Friends. I think that would be fun. Both from them, enjoying the fun of them having a base, and also, if you hope the kids enjoy it and they start drawing things, they can start drawing and designing what their base looks like. I think something like that could be a lot of fun. Now, the problem is I now want to bloody do it. I've got so much stuff that I want to write and do and edit short thoughts and stuff like that, that actually, when am I going to have time to do all of this? I mean, maybe the solution here is that I bring in other people for this. Maybe this is something that gets me actually doing a backer kit or a Kickstarter on it, is that... And that's maybe an obvious thing, that actually, well, if I've got 3 recurring villains, maybe I bring in a different writer to write each of them. Maybe I'll write one of them to give a sort of template of what it could be, and then I bring in other writers to do their own ones. I think that could be a lot of fun, and I don't know. Maybe it's foolishly ambitious and egotistical, but I feel like I've nailed this one. there is a very clear idea in my head about how I can now write this book of one-shots to make them really accessible for all ages, but in particular for kids. I just want to do it now. I suspect this is going to be one of these things where I create a notes file on my computer and I just keep adding to it and adding to it and adding to it, and then eventually I actually just start writing it. Yeah, I think this could be fun. I think this could be really fun. And let's see where it goes. Okay, let's wrap this up. So, sorry to bang on about the same things again. Let's start with the obvious ones. Well, first of all, thank you very much for joining me. I hope you have enjoyed it. If you have enjoyed my random meanderings on this one, please follow me here on Twitch. Like I said, I am trying to get up to 100 followers on Twitch by my birthday next Wednesday. And every viewer counts because you are all awesome people. Normally I do a Wednesday stream. Oh, you absolute legend. Thank you very much, Jazzute. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. I normally do a Wednesday Geeky Lunch Chat with Game stream. I don't know if that's happening this week. My day job diary looks a little bit chaotic. I have some meetings just before lunch. I have some meetings just after lunch. And I don't know if I'm going to find a good window to actually do this on Wednesday. But we'll see. We'll see. Hopefully, I will have a stream on Wednesday. But watch this space on that one. If you've enjoyed this, other places you can follow me, Twitter, where I am at DC Bradshaw RPG, Blue Sky, I am at dcbradshaw.com, Threads, I am at DC Bradshaw as well, so you can follow me in all those places. It's been a fun, well, I have my lunch, thank you. No, thank you so much, I really appreciate it. It is wonderful to expand my audience, bring in new people, and I'm so glad I've entertained you first and foremost. Other Target stuff. If you like the dulcet tones of my voice, perhaps you'll enjoy Short Thoughts. So Short Thoughts is my bite-sized interview show. It comes out fortnightly. Each episode is a 13 to 15 minute interview with someone from the gaming industry, where I ask them some somewhat silly questions. All episodes go on YouTube. They also appear on in podcast format on exactly the same day. So I've got linked in the chat there the playlist of all the episodes so far. If you enjoy them, please subscribe. I'm also trying to hit 100 subscribers there as well. I'm currently on 91, which is pretty damn good. And also follow from the podcast app of your choice. This Friday's episode is my episode with Red Wormling, aka the 7-year-old DM, and it's lovely. It's just lovely. So tune in for that, either watching it live or watching it in a time and place of your choosing. It is youtube.com/@DCBradshaw, and that new episode comes out on Friday at 1 PM British Standard Time. And I hope you enjoy that. I also have a Ko-Fi, which is £3 a month. You get access to behind the scenes stuff, works in progress, and the like. And the link is at the bottom down there. Thank you so much for joining me. Let us see if there's anyone about. I think we will do a raid of, Puzzling Old Man, I think is who we're gonna raid today. So let me just tee that up. Puzzling Old Man does, as the name suggests, puzzles. And is a smaller streamer, but I very much enjoyed all of the stuff that I have watched. So let's start that raid. I don't have any raid calls or anything like that, so just go over and be lovely, and hopefully I will see you all again soon. So let us tee that all up, and I will hopefully see you all very soon. Have a wonderful day. Take care. All right. Bye.